Hello, welcome to my channel again, and this is one I've wanted to do for ages, and I'll tell you what, there are some really wonderful people that watch my channel, and this is the story of how I got this. One of the viewers who is regular has decided to help me out. I have wanted to do a review of the WeAre Rewind player, and I couldn't justify buying one. So one of my viewers has sent me one, and thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. I'll make sure it gets back to you. However, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at one, see if I agree with what everybody else has said, which possibly I will, possibly I won't, you never know. And then what we'll do is we'll do some proper testing on it and see the results. At the end of it, I'll give you my opinion, because from what I can tell, opinions and results are not necessarily totally tied together. But if you're not sure what I mean, you have to look at the end. Let's get stuck in, shall we? It started with an email, and then I got this, and I'm thinking, hello, what's in here? I've sort of an idea, but because of the email, but I didn't really know. So let's open it up and find out. It's nicely packed, sent special delivery, and yeah, it's very nice. And oh, there. I've not seen one of these in the flesh before, so you have to bear in mind, this is totally the first time I've seen one at all, ever. I've seen them on video, but that's not the same thing. And I can tell you, it's not a light box. This thing weighs something. It's quite a job, and it's been very well packed. I will give credit for where credit's due. That is a well-packed package. And as you can see, it survived very well. The box looks totally pristine. It is as it should be. WeAre Rewind. And I've no idea what I'm going to actually see in it. I know they're available. Now this one says it's stereo sound, rechargeable battery, wireless Bluetooth connectivity and recording function. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, I guess that is. WeAre Rewind. Then we got Serge, Kurt and Keith. Apparently this one's Keith, whatever that means. Not being French, I don't know. So let's have a look. Now this is the moment of reveal for me and for you. Ah, now that is nice. And there's a pencil. I remember somebody else saying about pencil. Recordology mentioned a pencil. And this does weigh and feel quite sturdy. So I'm going to be very careful with this, because I don't want to drop it. It is, well, look at that. Nice. I never really was keen on the yellow one, and I must say I like this one. This one does look good. So let's have a look and see what it says on there. WeAre Rewind, model whatever, 5 volts, 900 milliamps. Device complies with all the various things, and designed and engineered in France, made in China. So that's good then. CE and FC certified. Designed and engineered in France, made in China. So is that good or is that bad? I don't know. I've seen reviews from other YouTubers, and they tend to be positive, so I'm hopeful on this one. So let's get the pencil and try it out, and yeah, okay. First disappointment, the pencil does not work. Never mind, I've always got a Bic pen if I need to use that. So we'll carry on, and now we'll see what else we got. Underneath there, oh, look at that, that's rather nice. That is a USB, it's a USB-C. Yep, that's USB-C. So that's for charging it up. And yeah, that's good. Like that, no problems with that. And I'll tell you, the box is sturdy, and the plastic insert is sturdy, and this is heavy. Now I'm not sure what, let's have a look, we're just trying to get some decent light on here now, because it needs to be shown in its best light, literally. It's got a rather nice metal fleck metallized appearance. Now you cannot tell which bits are plastic other than the knobs, obviously, knobs and buttons, but you can't tell which bits are plastic and which bits are metal, not by the look, and not that easy by the feel, to be honest. It does feel sturdy, it's heavy, this feels nice, and you can see there it's got a stereo head, and yep, come on, up we come. Yeah, you can see in there's a stereo head, which is good. And what else can we see? It's got the motor to the left hand side, which this looks very reminiscent of the Riboson that I did, so it's obviously of a similar origin. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll have to find out. And yeah, let's see what else we got on here. So on this side we've got the volume control, headphones output, and that's a line input, so it takes it in. And there's the USB-C input for the voltage to charge the battery. It's got a built-in battery, which is where some of the heft comes from, of course. There's no good having a tape player or a tape recorder without tape, so the next thing I need to do is go and find a tape. And what I think I'll do is I'll get a TDK-D, because the TDK-D is a good standard tape, and well, I've got results for those somewhere, and we'll go with that. Next I need to be able to hear it, so I'm going to use headphones. I shall use these Audio-Technica headphones because they're the ones I use for everything, and so therefore I have them as a reference in my head. I know what they should sound like, and if there's a problem I should be able to hear it, and if there isn't I should also be alright anyway. Right, so plug those into there, and I'll put the tape in and we'll see where it goes. Now this is the tape that's got stuff on it. No, don't put it that way around. You've got to make sure you put it the right way around, and that's the right way around. And so this is going to be my first impression of playing a tape, and it's got some heavy rock music on it. It's obviously copyright material, so I can't do anything with it other than listen to it and, well, put the headphones on. And what I can say is, wow, it actually has a good sound to it. It is absolutely amazing, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but that's the initial impression. It's got some volume, and it's got some clarity, which is good, and then we're going to have to go from there. The next thing to do is to try out the buttons and see if it fast forwards and rewinds okay, because I want to get to the beginning of this tape. I think there might be something on this tape that's of use, but I'll start. So the rewind is nice, so you can see that it works well. And let's have a look and see what the fast forward and what the other functions are like. There's no reason to believe it's going to be a problem, so that's good. And yeah, that's it. I'm not going to use this tape actually because it's got this music on it, and thinking about it, I need to record some test tones and stuff, and I need to be able to compare them to something. So I've got another idea up my sleeve. This is the BASF Sound 1, and I've already done a test on this. I've done a review, and we've got quantifiable results on it because they were used. I used it on the W1200 to test the tape, so we've got results for that tape in a reasonable machine. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those tones to playback and check the results of the playback using Audacity from that tape. And then what I should do is I should use this machine to record onto that tape with the same test patterns that were used originally, and we'll be able to have an A-B comparison. So we'll have what this does with it, and we'll have what the actual thing can do with it, as in what it can do to a good Type 1 tape, because we know that the BASF is a good Type 1 tape. There's no problem there. As you can see, it's nicely rewinding. So this will be those results, and I'll give you the direct feeds where I can. Now we've got to sort out what we're going to do this, how we're going to do this. So I'm going to have to clear the space off and get the laptop and get the digitalizing interface and all of that sort of thing, and plug it in and see where we go from there. Now, so here we go. Let's get rid of that. That's the packaging. Let's get rid of the other tape, the scissors, and that. All that needs to be moved out of the way. And we can move the. What we're going to need for this is we're going to need RCA leads from 3.5mm because that's what the output is. I'm going to have to take the feed out from the headphone socket and feed that into the digitalizer. And obviously when it comes to doing the recording, I'll have to go into the line in. So the same lead will be used for that. There's no problem there. It's nice and simple. So here we go. Let's get all of the stuff together. What I'm going to use for this is I'm going to use the Behringer 202. That's the, not the UFO, but the other one. U-Control. UCA 202. And, or 222. Depends. I've got the red one, so it doesn't really matter. There is a video on my channel about how to use that. But anyway, we're going to use that. And I'm going to use a Windows laptop. I'm using Windows because Windows is what I've got. You could use an Apple if you happen to be well off enough to be able to afford an Apple. But I'm just going to use a nice simple HP laptop using Windows. It's on Windows 11, I think. It all got updated the other day, which was a bit of a surprise to say the least. First thing to do is plug in the USB lead from the Behringer, and it's always a bit tricky on these trying to get them to go in, but that's gone in all right. And then find the input terminals on the digitalizer and connect the two RCAs to the inputs. So that will be on that lead, and then to plug that lead into the player and make sure everything's in safe position. One of the things that I have found in the past is it's very easy to get distracted. You go around plugging things in and you put things down, and then you find you drop them or you snag the wire. It's well worth the voice of being old and not so decrepit is if you don't want to trip over things and that sort of thing, tuck the wires out of the way. It's trying to teach a young dog old tricks and all the rest of it, but you know, it's well worth making sure you're tucked neatly out of the way and that nothing's going to sort of fall over or anything. And we're just going to shuffle this so you can see what's what. And then I'm going to start Audacity. As you'd expect, I've already used this digitalizer many times, so there is no installation for me to do on this. It's just a case of getting it to connect up, and I've got to make sure that the inputs are set on Audacity. It's not the digitalizer, it's not the driver, it's just getting Audacity to work properly. And for some reason, this having just updated to Windows 11, it's got this stupid little thing in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to have to, if you get that, I don't know how to get rid of it. If you know how to get rid of it, let me know. But what I had to do is shut Audacity down and start it up again. I could have edited that out, but maybe you guys can tell me why that happened. It hasn't happened the next time. So why did it leave the little label in there, which I couldn't clear? I've always found these things to be strange. I mean, Windows and computers and things, they're fine, but every time they update it, something else doesn't work properly. Anyway, so there we go. Right. I'm going to plug, I've got just rewinding the tape here, doing this in real time. You can always fast forward if you find it it's all too boring. But if you're going to do something like this, if you're going to try and digitalize some tapes, maybe this will be a reasonable way for you to learn how to do it. And so there we go. Just going to hit playback on there, and we got some weird things happening. I don't know what that is. I've left it on there just so that you can see that these things do happen. I then managed to get it to do something. That's obviously some sort of low frequency oscillation, and I don't know what that is. But I will play back the sounds a little bit later once we've got the thing up and running. So here it's trying to get something right, and obviously you've got left and right channel on here. Never did find out what this actually was caused by. It is playing back the tape, and when I what I did was I turned down, I just did it just then, the input level on Audacity, and that was okay. There's no monitoring set up, so I couldn't hear what was going on, and it was a bit of a mess. So I've left this bit in so you can see it's not all plain sailing. So I stopped that, and then I went and stopped Audacity. Well, actually I haven't stopped that yet, but I will stop it. And it's really sort of being quite weird, because you got there, I don't know if you can see there, you can see the levels were pulsing. I've stopped it now, and I'm going to stop Audacity, and then I'm going to play it back and see what it sounds like. Well, as you can see, I'm not getting a lot of luck with this playing it back. And then I realised, because I've just plugged this thing in, and I don't normally use it for monitoring as such, I've actually got to change the speakers, because it's on USB output, which is the output that it would normally be fed out through the digitalizer, and I actually want to hear it on the PC speakers. So I've got to change the output on Audacity. If you look at the screen there, you can see I'm just doing the drop down, and I'm going to select speakers stroke headphones, which for a laptop means it will play out of its own speakers, and that's nice and simple like that. So that should work now, which it does, and let's see what we can hear. Okay, I've shortened that a bit. Let's see what this is like. That's a good sign. I've no idea what actually has caused it to be working and now not working. You see some weird traces on there as I'm rewinding it, but it's just one of those things. I'm not going to panic about it, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the correct levels for playback, which is one of the beauties of my test file, is that I can do that, and we can see how this responds to playing back the W1200 test signals on this machine and at the correct levels. So I'll do that, and there we go. Where We Want to Go by Patricos, dynamic and clean. Okay, well what I'll do now is I will forward it to where we can actually see the finished trace, and I'll do it from there. You don't need to see it on here as such, but you can see it's being developed, and it's looking pretty good actually. So we'll go with that, and I'll give you some direct feeds. So this is the actual trace that I got. This is from the pure file, and you can see it looks actually pretty reasonable. And there's a few things on it, and we could compare it to the original 1200 trace, but we'll have to go with it for now. What we do now is I'm going to play you back this trace with direct feed so you can hear what it is, but we'll jump about a bit and we'll see where it goes, but it should be obvious. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, go. Where We Want to Go by Patricos, dynamic and clean. Where We Want to Go by Patrikos, dynamic and clean. And now finally at the end we're going to just play just what the machine playing back the tape, where there was nothing recorded on it at all. It was virgin tape. So what we do now is we go quickly through the graphs and have a quick look and see what sort of responses we got. Now what I'll do with this is I will bring up the original W1200 version of the same graph so we can compare to see how the WeAre Rewind player is comparing to the W1200 original. Starting with the white noise, so we've got there, it looks quite respectable. It's tailing off at around about, well, it's dropping down from 9k. Now let's have a look at what it did on the original 1200. That was a more sort of a linear drop off up to 20 kilohertz. Now we're looking at the white noise at minus 20, which has got a bit of a hump in it, but it's looking pretty good. And now we'll look at the original. It doesn't have the hump, but effectively it's the same shape. And again, it's looking okay. And you can see there's a slight hump in it. So the hump's probably something important, but we won't worry too much. Looking at the pink noise, minus 20 dB, that's quite reasonable. And now we'll look at it on the original, and that was a more linear drop, so that hump's becoming an issue. On to the 1 kHz 0 dB, and that looks very respectable. And there's the original one, which has got more of a tail off. There's the 1 kHz minus 20, which is okay, and then again there's more of a tail off on the W1200 version. The 3 kHz looks pretty good, but it drops off again, it just falls below the line. And on the original you can see it goes up to 20 kHz. There's the minus 20, which goes up to 15k, and then there's the original goes up to 20k. So now we're looking at the silence, and this is where we can see that hump. It's coming into its own now, and so it means the silence level is only minus 65 dB, whereas the original Bassif on the 1200 is minus 76 dB. This is interesting because this is the virgin tape and this is minus 66 dB, so it's 1 dB quieter than the erased bit of tape. Now we're on the nitty gritty. This is the sweep, and you can see here it stops at about 13 kHz. The 1200 managed to get output up to around about 18 kHz, not very much, but it was there. The point being it's on the tape. As expected, the playback at minus 20 is much better, and that actually gets up to 18 kHz on this one. And then you can see the original, it go up to 18.5, nearly 19 kHz, so pretty good on that. That's quite interesting. That means that we've got better than we would expect, certainly from a similar sort of cheap, cheerful one, the one that it looks like it's based on, the Riboson or anything similar to that you get very cheaply nowadays. So there is definitely a higher quality machine here, and we'll see now. We'll go on to doing recordings, see what it actually records like, and then we'll round up the whole thing at the end and give you the important bits and pieces highlighted. So stay tuned. We're going to use the Behringer to actually feed the signal to the device in the line input, which is useful because it's got a line output on the Behringer. So they'll go straight into the recorder, and there you can see what it's actually playing. The computer's playing the test tones, which is a pure digital source, and that's what it looks like when it's going into the machine. And we'll have a look and see what it looks like when it comes out. This should be interesting. Recording complete, so now we've just got to swap the leads over, and we can now play back into the computer, and we can see what the results are. This should be hopefully good. I mean, the playback of the original tape from the W1200 is pretty reasonable. So let's see what this is doing. This is what we're going to get. This is what the 1200 managed to produce for its own self, and this one is what the WeAre Rewind managed to do with the same tape, and this one is what it managed to do with its own recordings on the same tape. And as a reminder, this is what they look like when they're in their digital form. So anything that doesn't look like that is distortion. For the sake of story, what I've been doing is I've been working through this and getting the results. I haven't been looking ahead. So the bits of audio that you've heard of me telling you what things are doing, I'm not aware of what's coming much after that. So this is the first time I've had a look at what the actual output from the WeAre Rewind device is like. So the surprise and whatever is genuine, and that's the way it goes. I'll be playing now. I'll be playing some of the sounds at the end. I'll play you a sort of a compilation of different feeds so you can hear what it sounds like, what the original sounds like, and all that sort of thing. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be quite good. It's slightly long. First up we have this. This has got a bit of a problem on it. This is the Audacity Trace with clipping viewing turned on, and as you can see there is a lot of clipping on there, and it's at various places, not just where the music was loud. We'll look into exactly where that is a little bit further on. When you look at this, you can see there's drop off at about 15k, and it's a bit lumpy. When you compare it to the recording that it played back, which is actually quite good, and that wasn't very different to the recording playback on the machine that made the recording. The pink noise has a similar sort of lump in it, and again drops off markedly at 15k. You can see from this it's very different to the playback from the original tape, and this is what it should look like. Here we have the pink noise and the white noise again, and you can see here there's a problem because it's on full gain. The automatic level control has decided to turn it up. The silence is an interesting one here. We've got minus 60 dB, but on the playback of the W1200 it was minus 65, so that's 5 dB difference. And the original recorder worked out at minus 76 dB, so that's what it could have been. This was a real surprise. Look at that. This is 1 kilohertz, and there is absolutely no harmonic distortion on there at all. It's absolutely beautiful. And the 3 kilohertz is similarly very, very nice. Then comes one of the major drawbacks. You got here the gain is bringing up the minus 20 to just under the 0 dB, which is not what we wanted. For completeness, there is this trace, which is 1 kilohertz before the gain really got stuck in. Here's the full gain version, and similarly the 3 kilohertz at full gain is very nice. You can't complain at that. In fact, from many points of view, it's better than the 1200 with its little spike there. And then we look at the frequency range, and this is where it's quite impressive, but also quite annoying. It doesn't do a minus 20 dB recording because it puts the gain up. Where We Want to Go by Patrick Patrikos, dynamic and clean. Where We Want to Go by Patrick Patrikos, dynamic and clean. And finally we get on to the wow and flutter. This is what the reading was. That's going to be fractionally smaller than that, but not a lot. And 0.4 is quite high, but not as bad as it could be, that's for sure. So there we go. That's been a bit of a marathon. It's taken a long time to get all those figures. The results are that it's actually pretty good. It plays back reasonably well. It plays back with quite good fidelity. Unfortunately, there's a couple of major problems with it which make it less than ideal. The motor noise means that you've got a constant whirring. So you've got a couple of problems wrong with it. One's the motor noise, and then you've got the hiss. And when you put that together with the automatic gain control, you end up with a system that really lets itself down as far as recording is concerned. However, playback, if you can tolerate the hiss, is pretty good. You saw the results, you heard the results. So overall, it's an awful lot better than it could have been, but it's a bit of a shame it's not as good as it could be. If you've got anything from this, maybe you'd like to subscribe and pass the video around and share and all that sort of thing. And if you've found anything, if you think I've done anything wrong, please let me know. Comments are always welcome, and we'll see where we go, see if we can make it any better. Thanks a lot. Cheers.